Someone kept using my driveway as a parking spot without permission. I politely asked them to stop, but they scoffed, first come, first served. That weekend, I installed a locking gate. The next time they parked there, they found themselves trapped, and the tow truck I called had no problem hauling their car away. I never thought my own driveway would become a battleground. But here I am, dealing with strangers who think it's their personal parking spot. One morning, I stepped outside to get my newspaper and saw a silver sedan parked in my driveway. I didn't recognize the car. I looked around, expecting to see someone, but the street was quiet. I waited a few hours, thinking the owner might return. By noon, the car was still there. Frustrated, I left a note on the windshield, "This is private property. Please do not park here." The next morning, the car was gone. I hoped that was the end of it. But over the next week, different cars started appearing in my driveway. A blue pickup one day, a red hatchback the next. Each time, I'd leave a note. Each time, the car would be gone by morning. One evening, I saw a young man park his car and walk away. I approached him. "Excuse me," I said. "This is my driveway. You can't park here." He smirked. "First come, first served," he said, and walked off. I was stunned. How could someone be so disrespectful? I called the local authorities. They told me that unless the car was blocking my access or had been there for an extended period, there wasn't much they could do. I felt helpless. I decided to install a locking gate. I hired a contractor, and by the weekend it was up. A sturdy metal gate with a padlock. The following Monday, I left the gate open. Sure enough, by evening, a familiar car was parked in my driveway. I waited until nightfall, then quietly closed and locked the gate, trapping the vehicle. The next morning, I called a local towing company. They arrived promptly. As they were preparing to tow the car, the young man came running. "Hey, what are you doing?" he shouted. "You're parked on private property without permission," I said. "I've asked you multiple times to stop." He pleaded, offering excuses about limited parking. But I stood firm. The tow truck driver hauled the car away. The young man had to pay a hefty fee to retrieve his vehicle. Word spread quickly, and the unauthorized parking stopped. I finally had my driveway back. Reflecting on the ordeal, I realized the importance of standing up for oneself. My driveway was more than just a place to park, it was a symbol of my home and the respect I deserved. Life returned to normal with one less car in my driveway and a newfound sense of empowerment. After the tow, I thought it was over. I thought the word had spread and people would finally leave my driveway alone. I was wrong. About a week later, I came home from the grocery store to find my brand new gate wide open. The lock was lying on the ground, cut clean through. At first, I thought maybe it was a prank, maybe some bored teenagers. But as I stepped onto my property, I saw fresh tire marks running across the driveway and up into my lawn. Someone had driven around in circles on my grass, completely tore it up. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just some random idiot anymore. This was revenge. I checked my security cameras. Sure enough, just after 2 a.m., the same guy, the first come, first served genius, showed up in his car, got out, looked straight into the camera, and then used bolt cutters to snap the lock. He opened the gate, did a few donuts on my lawn, and then sped off. I called the police immediately. They came out, watched the footage, and wrote up a report. But again, they said unless I knew his full name and had more evidence linking him to prior incidents, there wasn't much they could do. Trespassing and property damage, sure. But they weren't optimistic anything would come of it. I gave them the footage anyway, but I could tell by their faces they weren't going to prioritize this. That same day, I went to a hardware store and got 2 new locks. I added a security bar to the inside of the gate so it couldn't just be pushed open even if the lock was cut again. I also installed floodlights that lit up the entire driveway and yard the second any motion was detected. But the best part? I upgraded my cameras. Higher resolution. Night vision. Full sound. I even put one across the street in a neighbor's tree with permission pointed right at the street entrance. I wanted everything this time. A week later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Just my name and house number. Inside was a single piece of paper. On it, printed in large letters, "You think you're smart? Try that again and see what happens." No signature. Nothing else. It was chilling. Turns out I wasn't the only one having problems. My neighbor, Paul, had noticed scratches on his car door. Another down the street had their mailbox smashed. Someone else said their trash bins had been lit on fire. The common theme? All of them had security signs or small fences. Things that suggested they didn't like random people messing with their property. It was like someone was targeting people who had boundaries. We formed a little group chat, compared stories, Shared camera footage. More than a few of us had video of the same car driving slowly past our homes in the early morning hours. Always the same guy. Same hoodie. Same smug look. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of a loud pop and a weird humming noise. I looked out the window and my heart stopped. My front yard was glowing. My floodlight was smashed, and my lawn was on fire. I ran outside, called 911, and tried to put it out with the hose. Neighbors came running. The fire department arrived and handled it quickly, thankfully before it reached the house. The fire chief said it looked like gasoline had been poured along the edges of the grass. It was intentional. Deliberate. This was no longer about parking. This was personal. After the fire, everything changed. I didn't sleep for days. I kept every light on. I kept my tools next to the front door like a madman. I even set an alarm to check the cameras every hour through the night. But here's the worst part, the guy didn't show up again. Not right away. And that quiet, that silence, it was louder than the fire had been. About 10 days later, while I was out front repairing some of the scorched lawn, an older man walked up the sidewalk. He looked mid-50s, flannel shirt, clean-cut. Not someone I recognized. He stopped at the edge of my property and said, "You the one who had the car towed?" I stood up, wiping my hands on a rag. "Yeah. Who's asking?" "I'm his father." I froze. He walked closer but didn't step onto my property. "He's my son. He told me you embarrassed him. Said you locked him in and had his car taken. Said he lost his job over it." I stared at him. He was parking on private property. He ignored my notes. He cut my lock and burned my yard. The man looked down, then back up at me. "He's not right. He's been off since he moved back from Arizona. Got in some trouble there. Never told me the full story. But I'm not here to make excuses." I crossed my arms. "So what are you here for?" "To tell you, be careful. He holds grudges. Long ones." Then he turned and walked off. Just like that. After that strange encounter, I did some digging. I remembered the guy's license plate from one of the earlier videos. I had it written down. I went online, looked up public court records. Found his name. Let's call him Randy. Not his real name, but I won't say it here. Randy had been arrested twice in Phoenix. Once for harassment. Once for setting fire to a vehicle in a parking lot. And guess what? The victim in that second case? A coworker who reported him for sleeping on the job. The more I read, the colder my spine felt. This guy wasn't just some punk. He was unstable. One night, about a week later, I got a ring on my doorbell just past 10 p.m. odd time for deliveries, but I checked my front camera anyway. A guy in a hoodie stood there holding a flat box. No logos. No van in sight. I didn't answer. I just watched. He stood still for a full minute. Then he turned, walked off the porch, and placed the box under my car. I bolted outside with a flashlight and yelled. He took off running before I could even get a clear look at his face. I called the bomb squad. I wasn't taking chances. Turned out the box wasn't a bomb. It was filled with old batteries and rusted nails. Heavy enough to cause concern. And definitely not a joke. A week later, I got served. Randy was suing me, claiming I damaged his property, caused emotional distress, and unlawfully imprisoned his car on my driveway. He was asking for $10,000 in damages. I almost laughed, except it wasn't funny. I had to hire a lawyer. My camera footage helped a lot, but still, it cost me over $2,000 in legal fees just to respond and get the case dismissed. He never showed up to court. One morning, Paul from next door knocked on my door. He looked shaken. "You got a minute?" he asked. I nodded. "I saw that kid again," he said. "Last night, around 3 a.m. He was sitting in a car, lights off, just parked across the street. Watching your house." I checked the street cam I had mounted across the road. Sure enough, there it was, a dark sedan parked half a block down, idling for nearly 45 minutes. I printed screenshots of every time his car had been caught loitering. I gathered police reports, fire department statements, and the footage of him with bolt cutters. I brought it all to the town council, then to a local attorney. And I started something new, a restraining order request. But not just that. I wanted to go further. I wanted to make sure this guy never stepped near my home again. But the problem? Randy wasn't done. Not even close. After Paul's warning and all the evidence I gathered, I pushed hard for a restraining order. It took weeks and Randy still hadn't been seen in person since the night he dropped that box under my car. But I knew he was out there, waiting. Then one night, everything exploded literally. It was 2:17 a.m. I was asleep when I heard a loud bang. Like a car backfiring but deeper. The whole house shook. My first thought was an earthquake. I grabbed my flashlight, ran out barefoot. And my gate? Gone. Blown open. The hinges were twisted like spaghetti. My front yard was a mess of shattered metal and scorched grass. There was no car. No Randy. Just damage. A lot of it. Cops came. Fire department again. The report this time said someone likely used homemade explosives to break the gate. Maybe fireworks taped together or worse. This was no longer some idiot acting out. This was dangerous. I called my lawyer and asked what more I could do. The cops were dragging their feet, the system was slow, and I was the one paying the price. That night I made a decision. It wasn't exactly legal, but it was fair. I went through the old footage and finally traced Randy's car back to where it turned every time, toward a rundown apartment complex about 5 blocks away. I'd seen it in enough angles, enough times. So I followed him. 3 nights in a row I drove slowly past that complex. And on night 4 I saw it. His car. The same dented door, the same faded sticker on the back window. I parked nearby. Waited. He came out of the building around 11:30 p.m., hoodie on, backpack slung over one shoulder. I watched him walk around the back of the building and disappear into the shadows. Then I moved in. Using a spare tire iron, I let the air out of all 4 tires. Then I poured a full bag of sugar into his gas tank. I left a note under his windshield wiper that read, "Now we're even. Stay away from my house." And I walked away. No cops. No reports. Just one last warning. The next day I got a phone call. From the police. Apparently Randy had caught me on camera. A grainy video showed a figure at his car, pouring something. He handed it over. I didn't deny it. I told them everything. I said I'd had enough. That I was pushed past the edge. I brought my mountain of evidence to the station. The notes, the videos, the burned lawn, the fake delivery, everything. The cop, same one from the first call months ago, looked through it all and said, "I'm going to pretend I didn't see your part in this." I stared at him. He said, "That guy? We've had complaints before. And if this keeps him away from you and everyone else, maybe we all win." I didn't say anything. I just nodded and left. I thought that was it. Until a week later, my garage burned down. Middle of the night, no warning. Flames shot through the roof. Neighbors called 911. By the time firefighters put it out, everything inside, tools, lawnmower, old photos, camping gear, was gone. No one saw anything. No car on the cameras. Just a faint blur caught by the side yard cam. A shadow. A flicker. Nothing useful. I knew it was Randy. But there was no proof. And after the sugar stunt, I couldn't press charges anyway. I lost everything in that fire. And I realized something. Yeah, I got my revenge. I made him suffer a little. But it didn't fix anything. He got to me. I lost my peace. My garage. My sleep. Even now, I check the locks 5 times before bed. And him? He vanished. Moved, apparently. Word is, he skipped town after the fire. No one knows where he went. Or what he'll do next. So here I am. With a brand new gate. A rebuilt garage. A solid lock. And a permanent sense that the next enemy could be anywhere. Next door. Down the street. Smiling while planning their next move. We both made mistakes. Mine cost me more than I expected. But if he ever comes back, he better hope he's got better aim this time. Because I won't make the same mistake twice.